In this video, we are going to look at how you can build and complete your building project even in these hard, challenging economic times. We are going to look at how you can complete your project, finish quickly without suffering too much from inflation and increases in prices of building materials and more coming up next. Okay, so my very first tip is that you need to make sure you buy in bulk, right? So cement can last you up to 3 months, sometimes even 4 months, depending on how you store it, right? And so the price of cement has been going up almost every week or every other week. 2 weeks ago, cement was selling for about 85 Ghana cedis. Today it's at 95. A month ago, cement was selling for about 73 cedis. Today it's at 95. It could get to 100 Ghana cedis pretty soon. Now, just like 2 or 3 months ago, cement was selling for about 50 Ghana cedis. So if in 3 months it's almost double the price, then you need to know that if you had bought cement in bulk, maybe 200 bags, you could have been using it for these past 3 months without it going hard. And another tip is, if you buy cement, you can use it to cut blocks, right? And blocks can last a year or two. So maybe you are now starting the project, you've got your land and everything. I'd advise buy a lot of cement, cut a lot of blocks, maybe 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 blocks, depending on the size of the house you are building, the number of rooms and all that, right? And the blocks will last you a year or two. And so you'll be able to save money. You don't care if cement prices increase or not. And also you can buy iron rods and blocks in bulk, right? Iron rods are not going to expire if you keep them well. They are not going to rust if you keep them well. Similarly, blocks as well. So make sure to buy in bulk, and it's really, really good. And this leads me to the next point. Plan, save, and build quickly. The Bible talks about a certain man who wanted to build and he didn't count the cost of the building. And so he reached a certain point and he couldn't continue, right? So when you are going to build, you need to plan. You need to have people who are experienced like myself and others to guide you, to mentor you and all those. And we have a lot of videos that you can watch in our playlist that will show you tips on saving money, will show you the latest prices of building materials. So if you're new to the channel, kindly consider subscribing and turning on all notifications so that when we release such insightful videos, you don't miss any of the episodes. Now, if you also want us to help you build your house as consultation or supervising, send us an email. Our email is in the description below. So now planning helps you to be able to do your project and do it well, right? So I have been a project manager for a couple of years. And so I know the importance of planning. Where you fail to plan, you can build and then you realize that you reach a certain critical stage like roofing and you don't have enough funds to roof. As a result, your building project can come down. The elements, the rain, the sunshine can come and then destroy your building. Also, if you don't really plan well, you don't have somebody to guide you, you will make the mistake where you will put up your block work and the winds will come and break it because you didn't do your pillars in time, right? So planning is really, really essential. So plan, save, and build in phases. And this leads me to the third point, which is find an alternate source of income. If we are going to talk about savings, then if your salary has been the same from the start of the year till now, meanwhile the prices of goods and materials have doubled, some have even tripled, then your salary is not going to continue to sustain you and your family and also your building project. So you need to find another source of income, right? And I know many people in the diaspora have more than one job, but if your job is really good and you're earning good cash, that's good. But to ensure that the inflation and the prices of materials don't affect you too negatively, find another source of income. A job that you can do remotely or any job that can give you passive income so that whilst you work your main job, this one is also giving you another source of income. Really, really important. So I know some people who work in the corporate space, but weekends, they play music, like they play in bands, they have certain gigs they do. I know other people who do like design and fashion design and stuff like that. I know people who also work in the corporate space and then they do like wedding photography, videography, decor and makeup and all these things during weekends, right? People also teach and stuff. Finding another source of income would really help you to sustain the pace of your building project so that the prices of building materials and inflation don't affect you too negatively. The fourth point is to always ensure that you compare merchants before you make any purchase, especially if you have like a contractor who is building for you, right? And he comes to you and says, oh, the cost of doors, maybe 1.5 security door is 4,200. Make sure you also compare, right, and do your own research, because he might have added his own profits or whatever margins to it. He might be honest, he may not have added, but he might have just gone to one merchant. So make sure you always compare multiple merchants, and it will give you an indicative rate of how much the material you want to buy will cost, right? And you can also negotiate when you have knowledge. If you don't know, then you can't negotiate, but when you have knowledge, then you can negotiate. And this leads me to the next point, the fifth point, which is to always ask for discounts. At least right of the point of comparing, because if you went to merchant 1 and the cost of doors was 5,000, merchant 2 and the cost of doors was maybe 4,800, and merchant 3, the same door, same quality, was 3,000, then you can actually go to merchant 1 and say, hey guy, I saw this, maybe you should try reducing your price and stuff like that, based on maybe merchant 1 is closer to you than merchant 3, etc. But at least having knowledge helps you to negotiate for discount. Don't just buy anything that you are given, especially if you are new to the locality. Negotiate, let your bargaining skills be top notch, else you would be cheated a lot. My next point is take advantage of promotions. A lot of merchants like tiles and the people who do bathroom sets and decor and stuff like that have promotions, especially as we are drawing closer to Black Friday, the holiday season, Christmas, etc., the New Year. People want to sell off the goods that people haven't been buying a lot, and so they do discount promotions. So you need to also go to some of these merchants and find out when they would be doing their promotions and go during that period and buy, right? And it helps you to save a lot of money when building, especially during these periods. My very next point is to ensure that you use alternate materials, right? So for example, cement, we have 42.5 R grade and we have 32.5 R grade. Do you know the difference between the two? Do you know when to use 42.5? Well, for you there, you always buy 42.5, right? So you need to know the differences, and then you need to use the alternate material. So some of you don't necessarily need to buy 32.5 R grade. Maybe you are doing plastering, right? Maybe you are just doing plastering of the floor. You don't need a 42.5 R grade cement. So look for the right kind of material for the right kind of job or project that you are doing. Don't just copy everybody because everybody is buying 42.5 R grade. Don't just copy your neighbor because the person bought 20 millimeter iron rods. Meanwhile, the building you are putting up doesn't need 20 millimeter iron rods. Maybe for this particular stage, you could do with 14 millimeters or 12 millimeters or 16 millimeters. So make sure you do your research well and use the alternate materials. Also, for tiles, you don't need to buy the most expensive tiles. Sometimes some of these tile vendors have like cheaper alternatives, right? But they may not be the brightest, they may not be the most beautiful colors and stuff like that, so people are not buying them. But hey, you could use those ones maybe in your bathrooms or your toilets or other places, right? And it's not like go for the nasty things, right? Go for, it must be good, but alternatively, could you use this for your hall? Could you use this for your corridor, etc., right? So go for some of the alternative materials. If you are doing POP, do you need to do POP, full POP like you are seeing on your screen right now? Or you can just do it along the corners or edges of your house, you know? So you need to consider all these things and use alternative materials. Also, if like your building has, or your building site has a lot of stones, do you really need to go and buy stones again? Why don't you get people to come and, you know, get the stones for you from the land, right? Instead of going to buy stones for 3,000 Ghana cedis, get somebody, pay him maybe 500 Ghana cedis or 1,000 Ghana cedis. Let him come and use his hammer and all that, and break the stones for you to use on your building project. All these things are ways you can save when building to ensure that the prices of building materials don't affect you too negatively. The very next point is DIY. Do it yourself, right? So many of us, there are things that we can do. My good friend Ishmael Lamte is somebody I admire so much, and I'm going to leave his channel link in the description so that you check him out. He does a lot of things himself. He did his solar, his net installation. There are small things that you can do yourself, right? So it's not everything that you need to go and get somebody to do for you. If you can, do it yourself and save money on the cost of labor. Really important. The very next point, which is the 8th point, is to make sure that you pay in installments, right? So if you've been watching my channel, you know that when I was doing my roofing works, the cost of roofing was almost 40,000. And so what I did was I got into an agreement with the vendor and we agreed to pay in installments, right? And if you haven't watched that video, I'm going to leave a link in the description as well so that you take a look at it. We paid the first 10,000 for the woodwork, and then we paid another 10,000 for the metal work. And so that was like half of the 40,000. And the rest, when they completed the work, we paid in installments. And that helped us to save a lot of money, because the first time we went for the quote for the metal works, it was about 16,000. The next time we went, it was about 22,000. In just the space of 1 month, right? So if we had delayed because we were waiting for the full sum, we could have gone again and it would have been like 30,000. I've been planning to do solar on my project for a very long time, and I used to see like 5,000 watts solar panels for about, not just the 5,000 watts, were 5 kWh batteries, lithium batteries, and a 5,000 watts inverter. It was going for about 30,000. That was 3 months ago. Today, that same package is selling for about 60,000. It has doubled, right? So if I had gone and at least made a deposit, I could have locked some of the merchants and then bought some of these things gradually. And by now, maybe when the money is ready, I could have paid off. But I've waited so long, and now 60,000 is something I can barely afford, right? So sometimes just go and pay in installments, get into an agreement with the merchant, and you'll be able to save money on such things as well. Make sense? Leading up to that point is also the fact that sometimes you can get a loan, right? Because if you look at the rate at which the building materials have increased, in the past 3 months, they've almost all doubled, right? Like 100% increase minimum. If you went for a loan and you were even paying 30%, it makes economic and financial sense, right? You are paying, let's say you went for a loan of 100,000, you are paying the 100,000, you are going to pay 30,000 as interest in a year, right? And the cost of your building at the start of the year was 100,000. At the end of the year, it's probably 400,000 or 300,000 or 200,000. So if you had taken the 100,000 and completed the building in like 6 months, you would have saved so much money, about 200,000 of the inflation that is going on. So sometimes it doesn't hurt to go for a loan. Maybe your personal philosophy might be that you don't go for loans and you don't borrow money, or you don't lend money from people and all these things. But I think that sometimes it makes sense to go for loans, right? Especially if the person is a trusted friend, not necessarily a bank or a savings and loans company who can give it to you at interest free or very little interest. It makes economic sense. And I would encourage you, if you go for a loan, please, please, please be a man of your word. If you say you pay by the end of the year or by the end of the month or by the end of the week, make sure you pay. Many times people don't give loans because the people who promise to give, the energy they come when they are borrowing the money is different when it's time to pay. You call them and they will not be picking up and all these things. So make sure you're a person of your word, and people would gladly give you loans. The next point is to buy an uncompleted building, because I think in these times, buying an uncompleted building makes a lot of sense. Now, there are advantages and disadvantages of buying uncompleted buildings. I have a whole playlist that I'm going to leave in the description below for uncompleted buildings so that you can watch and make an informed decision. But I think buying an uncompleted building is really, really important, because the value that you are going to